This Impact Wrestling review was brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. I don't mind the taste. Okay, sorry for the wait on this one. I had to work all weekend and this was the earliest I could do the video. That's just how it goes sometimes. Anywho, I've had a lot of requests to review Extravaganza and Wrestlemania. I was hoping to get those covered in Q&A 06, and if you want my longer thoughts, go watch that video. But people kept asking for a proper review, so I'll give you the abridged version. I liked One Night Only Extravaganza. I thought for an X Division tribute show it was pretty decent. There was no storyline significance. It was very self-contained, so you were pretty much watching just for the matches. And I thought most of them were good, with a couple exceptions. Chavo versus Robbie was so pointless that they had to send Joseph Park out there just to keep people interested. And the escape match I really didn't care for at all. It was pretty clunky, although I thought Sam Shaw did well for himself. All the other matches were good or better, my favorites being Aries vs. Joe and the 2 tag matches. Ultimate X and Van Dam vs. Jerry Lynn were solid too, although Taz's commentary completely ruined those matches for me. I wasn't super blown away or anything, but I think it was worth what they were charging for it. I enjoyed the show for the most part, and I'd recommend it for X Division fans if you missed it. But if you're going to watch it, take my advice, watch it with the sound muted. If you really want to enjoy Extravaganza, then the less you hear of Taz's commentary, the better. Trust me. As for Wrestlemania, I really don't have much to say. It was a 3-match pay-per-view. All the others just felt like Raw matches. I was only kind of half paying attention to most of this show, to be honest. The production was spectacular, but everything up until the last 3 matches was pretty forgettable. Taker vs. Punk was match of the night easily, and the first one that actually felt like a WrestleMania match. The build-up may have sucked, but they busted their asses, and they delivered something that was a hell of a lot better than the crappy storyline they'd been stuck with. Brock Triple H I had trouble getting into, either because it was pretty slow-paced or because the crowd was dead by that point. But it was a pretty brutal match. Brock suplexing Hunter through the announce table was really cool. It was probably better than their SummerSlam bout, but I absolutely hated the finish. Triple H going over was a terrible decision. For long-term business, it made way more sense for Lesnar to win that match. So they damaged Brock's viability just to give Triple H a win he doesn't need when he's already semi-retired. Stupid. And then there was Rock Cena twice in a lifetime, which would have been a huge letdown if I'd actually wanted to see it. There was some nice psychology at times, but the last 10 minutes or so was just them going for their finishers over and over again, and it actually got kind of boring to me. And the finish didn't help either. Cena wins clean, he hugs The Rock in a show of respect, which the crowd booed, by the way. No heel turn, nothing changes, Cena doesn't have a bad bone in his body, the same old status quo is restored, and we're right back where we were 2 years ago. If you wanted this to put me to sleep, WWE, congratulations, it worked. That match desperately needed a Cena heel turn, which is never going to happen, and they actually had the balls to tease us about that the next night on Raw. Hey, how about a little heel turn, huh? For fuck's sake. And honestly, overall, I didn't think WrestleMania was that good. I'd probably give it like a C+, maybe. It was an okay pay-per-view, but for a WrestleMania, really underwhelming. And now, onto a show that I was actually looking forward to more than WrestleMania 29. This was the Impact show that we got instead of Sacrifice. With the new pay-per-view model, I expect we'll be getting shows like this, where pay-per-views used to be from now on. And that's a smart way to go, I think. For so long, it seemed like the TV was more important than the pay-per-views, and now that most of the pay-per-views are gone, they don't really have to pretend anymore. They can just treat the TV show like a big deal without having to worry about a monthly pay-per-view just getting in the way of that, let's be honest. And for their first time doing this, I thought the end result was good, though kind of a mixed bag. They built up several things to culminate here, so it would seem like a mini pay-per-view. So this Impact was really going to succeed or fail based on how these 5 things came off. I thought starting with the tag title match was cool. They don't normally start the show with matches. Although, if you wanted to pop the rating, opening the show with Los Stereotypicos, really not a good idea. Just saying.
Nobody cares about you guys.
Being a 2 out of 3 falls match felt pretty pointless. I mean, when you have the first 2 falls in the first 2 minutes, it's like, why even bother? It was really good after that, however. They gave it like 20 minutes, it felt like a pay-per-view caliber match, and I liked it a lot. But again, much like with Brock Triple H, I hated the finish. What is the point of Los Stereotypicos winning the belts back?
Oh, what a bunch of bull.
The only fresh tag team feud you can make right now is the Wet Dream Team versus Bad Influence, and that's the feud we want to see, goddammit! Chavo and Hernandez are the third wheel in this equation. When there was so much more mileage in Aries and Roode as the champs, this just makes no sense to me, and it really came off more like TNA just pandering to the Texas fans than anything else. But, as I said, the match itself was terrific, I just didn't agree with the outcome. The next thing they built up on this show was the first ever singles match between Gail Kim and Taryn Terrell, and it would be officiated by the new Knockouts referee. I was hoping this would be Taylor Hendricks, because that woman can rock a referee shirt like no one else, hashtag OVW, but instead, it was ODB. I was really hoping we'd seen the last of her. I am so done with ODB. I'm sick of her gimmick, I'm sick of her character. It's just tiresome to me at this point. If you want to stay relevant in this business, you have to be able to reinvent yourself, but ODB continues to do the same exact goddamn stuff she's been doing for the last 6 years. All I want is for her to go away. But, having said all that, I will take ODB refereeing a match over ODB wrestling a match any day of the week. And to be fair, I was afraid she was going to be way too distracting here and take away from the match, but thankfully she played it straight for the most part, and this ended up being mostly painless, thank God.
You're welcome!
Considering the amount of build-up this had, the match was really short. And considering what we got, that was probably the right call. Until Taryn can shake off the ring rust, it's best to keep her TV matches brief. This wasn't very good. But it was her first match where she really got to be showcased on her own, so you kinda had to put her over here. And post-match, she asks the crowd who wants to get physical with her. Yeah. Yeah, she shouldn't have too much trouble getting over. So I personally didn't care for this segment, but at least something productive came out of it. Number 3 on the list was AJ Styles' answer to the ultimatum that Hogan gave him last week. It was cool that they gave this the hour main event spot, and I think it's telling that they plan on this being a really big angle. I wasn't crazy about how it started. Hogan tries to get answers out of AJ. Just when AJ starts to talk, James Storm interrupts. Again. Storm, if you want answers out of this guy, stop interrupting him when he's trying to talk. So they're setting up AJ versus James Storm, and then Bad Influence come out, surprisingly. And as much as I think it would be in AJ and Daniels' best interests for their characters to stay away from each other, I really liked this. You know, until now, a lot of people have been comparing this storyline to the Sting NWO angle, and this kind of changes things by throwing a third party into the mix. You thought they were going to go one of two ways, and then they threw a curveball. So now Hogan, the Aces and Eights, and Bad Influence all want AJ on their team, and again, he didn't say no. And it adds a new wrinkle because I didn't see this coming. You know, suddenly AJ has a third option to keep people guessing, and that's great. So, while they basically dodged the issue of Hogan wanting an answer out of AJ or else, brother, I'm still captivated by this. You know, great promos from everyone, and a really interesting story developing here. Yes! Another surprising gut check verdict. Adam Pearce gets cut and Magno gets to face the judges.
Say what?
And immediately, everyone in the Twitter sphere starts losing their damn minds, calling bullshit, blah, blah, blah. Guys, relax. Did you see how Pearce called Pritchard a damn fool and how the camera stayed on him as he walked away? I bet you anything they're going to pull a Joey Ryan with this guy. If that's the last time we see Adam Pearce, I'll be stunned. I think this was really more about Adam Pearce walking away feeling like he got screwed than it was about Magno getting turned down by the judges, which I did agree with because he was way too botchy last week. But on the off chance that it's not an angle, I gotta say, I'm not too fussed about it. Oh, here come the haters. I can hear them already. But so many people were excited for Adam Pearce because he's done great stuff on the indies apparently, but he was getting judged based on his gut check match. And I just didn't think it was that good. I feel like I'm nuts for saying this because everyone else has been screaming about how awesome this guy is. But I'm sorry, I watched the segment back several times and I couldn't tell you one memorable thing he did in that match. He cut a good promo, yes, but what did he do in the match that was so great besides not botch anything? It comes down to his body of work more than the match, I guess, but just for a minute, forget about all that. Forget it, okay? Forget everything you know about Adam Pearce. If that had been the first time you had ever seen him, would you have signed him based on that gut check match? Think about it. But I did think Adam Pearce made more of an impression than Magno. And for the second month in a row, the more polished gut check contestant with much more fan support gets turned away first, pissing off a lot of fans in the process. I'm thinking that's not a coincidence. So I expect he'll be back. And if and when that happens, hopefully I'll see what everyone else sees in him. I'm looking for it, I really am. Now, before we get to the main event, a few other notable things happened this week. Joseph Park produced some paperwork that would annul Brooke Hogan's marriage to Bully Ray, and then Devon comes out and tells Joseph to stay out of it, calls him a jackass, and sucker punches him with a chain.
How dare you!
I'm very glad they didn't drag their feet on mentioning that Brooke probably could just get the marriage annulled under the circumstances. I mean, it would have been stupid if they hadn't done this. The stuff with Devon made me want to see Joseph get a TV title shot, which would be great if that's where they're going with it. I really want to see that belt get defended soon. Jesus Christ. I mean, Devon hasn't done a damn thing with it, so why not give it to Joseph Park? It's just gathering dust around Devon's waist. And then Joey Ryan's punishment for his shenanigans in the Knockouts match last week was getting squashed by Rob Terry in 2.5 minutes.
No, no, no.
Well, Terry didn't get Feed Me More chance this time, so that's something, I guess. But is this really all they have for Joey Ryan? Is there any kind of plan for him at all? He had all this build-up to getting a contract last year, and since Bound for Glory, he's been completely directionless. It seems like such a waste of an entertaining character who has the potential to do a lot more if they just give him a feud or a storyline or something. Anything. It's really disappointing what's happened to him.
This is how the world ends. Not with a bang, but with a whimper.
Now, the final thing they hyped up for this show was the main event, Jeff Hardy, Bully Ray, Full Metal Mayhem. I think it was really clever the way they set this up, with Bully telling the Aces and Eights that he needed to do this by himself, and Brooke saying that she needed to be at ringside for this. Most people, myself included, were probably expecting a Brooke heel turn because I think they set us up to think that. And throughout the whole match, I was like, stop pointing the camera at Brooke so much! Stop showing Brooke so much! You're making her heel turn way too obvious! And then she didn't turn heel. Which was great because that was actually the more surprising way to go. Instead, Bully gets help from Taz at ringside. So, I guess good for Taz finally doing something in this storyline besides stinking up the place on commentary every week.
I got a factoid for both you guys. I got a boil on my ass.
And holy shit, this was an awesome match. Jeff Hardy, you earned my respect on this show, man. Jesus Christ. Hardy was a bumping machine here. He got suplexed off the ladder, backdropped over the ropes onto the walkway, suplexed through the middle of an upside-down ladder, swanton from the top turnbuckle to the floor, through a table. He earned his paycheck and then some. I mean, this was brutal. I mean, he took a hell of a beating, and they had a pay-per-view main event quality match. This was great. And it really helped elevate a show that I hadn't been that crazy about up until that point. But listen very closely now, okay? Listen very closely. because of what happened here with Taz giving Billy Ray the hammer, next week, I expect Taz to be gone from the announce booth. I don't care how ironclad his kayfabe contract supposedly is. You cannot tell me that he can just do something like this, blatantly interfere in a match, and be allowed back on commentary with no repercussions. If that happens next week, if Taz is back in the announce booth next week, I am calling bullshit. I swear to God, TNA, I will complain about it on the internet. Do you hear me? I will complain on the internet.
Yes! 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 Yes!
But that's for next week. This week, for a mini pay-per-view type show that TNA built this up as, I thought it was pretty good. I was disappointed with some of it. The tag title change, Knockouts match wasn't great, Joey Ryan having no direction, etc. But the good outweighed the bad, and they finished strong with a tremendous main event. Oh, shut up. Shut up. No one cares about listening to you talk anymore. What people really want to hear about is how I just invaded the British Fist channel and punked out Terminator NJ like a bitch. Did you see it? It was genius. I interrupted his promo, totally pooning him, and that dumbass had no idea it was even happening. What an idiot. Okay, that's all well and good. And I'm not saying he didn't have that coming, but aren't you at all worried about escalation? Escalation? Yeah. I mean, right now you're feuding on Twitter, taking pot shots at each other, invading each other's videos, but what happens when that's not enough anymore? What comes next if one of you decides to take this up a notch? Oh, you'll see. Sooner than you think.